We've stepped out onto the Studio 5 Plaza for a little DIY inspiration. Here's the truth. Most of us we'd love a beautiful backyard, but also most of us have a taste that exceeds our budget. Still, Cynthia Bee says there are plenty of budget-friendly ways to create that beautiful backyard if you are willing to DIY.
That's right, and you know I'm a big fan of that. So, of course, one of the top projects is having a beautiful backyard gathering space.
Yes.
And we'd all love to cover it with one of those gorgeous pergolas with the big heavy timber, and you know, it can be thousands and thousands of dollars for something like that.
I can speak for experience. We priced this out, Dream List, at the beginning of the summer, and we were kind of like jaw hit the floor. We can do this ourselves?
You can do something similar. So one of the ways to do it now, there's a permanent and a temporary install, and I think we've got pictures of both.
Yes.
Mine is a temporary because I'm hoping to someday be able to cover the patio, but you can use 4x4 posts, and if you live in a windy area, you can concrete those in the ground, or if you need to just set them on the patio, I just got great big whiskey barrels and braced the posts, filled the bottom with concrete. And then you're able to run string lights between the house and the post, and that gives you that impact, that feeling of a pergola with the fun lights. And I sit out there in the evenings almost every night because I just love the way it feels on my back patio.
And I can see where just designating a space, even through something as simple as those posts you talk about, would do the job, or at least give you the feeling that you have that outdoor
That's right,
extension.
and then you can also bring some more green in. So when you have those in the planters, then you can go ahead and put vines and different things to grow up those posts, and then along the pergola, giving you even more of that pergola impact.
Starts to feel more enclosed.
Now the key with doing the vines, so I have on the ones that you're seeing the photos of, that is Heavenly Blue Morning Glory. It's not the weed, it's the actual flower that's got 4-inch blue flowers that I cannot wait for that to bloom. But it does need a little bit of support whenever you're going to try to get a vine to grow up any kind of a structure. So for simple annual vines like we showed on this pergola, what you're going to do is just put some screws into your posts. And then this is just tomato twine that you can get at any garden supply place. And all you're going to do is run that twine back and forth, loop it around. And that's it. And that'll give it just a little extra support for the vines. And as your vine's growing, you can come in and tuck it around a little bit and kind of help it work its way up. And that will give it the structure that it needs, so when there's wind or anything else, it doesn't just blow off the post.
And then at what point do we take these down, or do we?
I don't. I just leave that all year. So then when my vines die at the end of the season, I'll pull all the vines out of it, and the next season it'll all be ready to go.
But it gives you enough structure to hold it in place and shape it the way you want it to go.
That's right.
Okay, nice, nice. It's beautiful too. The lights are a beautiful touch.
Oh, I love those string lights. There's just something special about it. I think so many of us have good memories of places where they had those string lights, so it just brings back all those good vibes.
I didn't think of the memory factor, but whether you're out at a beautiful restaurant or a wedding location or whatever,
our honeymoon on Catalina at the Busy Bee, see, any of those kinds of things.
Got it. It says special, and you can have that in your own space. All right, this year, raised garden beds in particular are super popular. Why do they cost so much to install?
Well, there's a lot of lumber that's involved. They don't have to be really expensive, but the big surprise for people is the soil. Because when you put that nice garden bed soil in there, that can add up fairly quickly.
And you need a lot of it from a thickness standpoint.
Well, it depends on how high you've made your beds, right? And so if you do have a little bit taller beds, one way to save some money on those is to fill the bottom of the bed with like the big chunky ugly bark mulch. Then put your weed barrier fabric on, and then your garden soil. Most of the veggies you're going to grow are only going to need about a foot of soil anyway. So beyond that, it's more than you absolutely have to have. And so that's a great way to save some money. And then the other key is if you want to kind of personalize and you want to paint those raised beds, we don't want to just put regular paint on there. I mean, part of the reason you're growing your own is to avoid chemicals and things like that get added. So we don't want to add those ourselves. So we want to make sure that we're using materials that aren't full of chemicals, untreated lumber like cedar or redwood. But then if you're going to paint it, I would recommend milk paint. We actually did a project on Studio 5 a couple years ago with a milk painted raised bed.
I remember this.
I still have it, and it still looks good. I've been really surprised.
Because the milk paint effect is a little softer and subtle, so I was curious to know how that would last outside.
It has actually surprised me at how long it's lasted.
Good, and great color selection. It started out small, but it's grown over the years in terms of options.
That's right.
Okay, another DIY project I know a lot of people have thought about, could I tackle this in my own backyard, is a garden pathway.
Yes.
Give us some advice there.
Well, there's almost nothing prettier than those beautiful elaborate flagstone paths with the big pieces of flagstone.
Oh, they're stunning.
But if you've priced that big pieces of flagstone out, for most of us, that's more than we can really afford to do. Especially if you want to do a mortared path or really nicely fit one that you would have to have hired. That can get really pricey really quick. But we can utilize a different form of that same material that's a little more cost effective. So two of my favorites are the flagstone chips. So it's still that pretty flagstone, but it's a smaller little chunks of it, and so it's easier for DIY too. And it's pretty flat. You can walk on that in bare feet without getting too injured.
So you're sprinkling this out as your path.
Right, so you would use this in place of the flagstone after you put your base in. And then there's also, it's called decomposed granite a lot of times, but it's really, you know, just this kind of rock, and you can see that it's got a lot of fines in it, and that helps it pack really nice and tight. So if you just use regular gravel, it can kind of skitter around when you step on it, and it's not a real stable surface. So both of these will make for a little bit more stable surface, give you the same pretty color and the same effect without costing quite as much money.
In addition to those, are there places or sources where you can get nice, larger size landscape rocks for less?
If you want to just get decorative landscape rock and you have a means of hauling it and don't overfill, you can get permits to collect rock in certain areas on public lands. So, but you do need to get a permit for that. You can't just randomly go grab stuff. But there are community pits all over Utah where people can get landscape rock for free.
So good to know. Great inspiration. Still time, I should say, still summertime to tackle these DIY projects. And we mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Utah summer extends sometimes into September. It gets more beautiful in October.
That's right. It's a great time to plant.
More reason to enjoy your space. And you have an event coming up at the Conservation Park.
So this coming Saturday, August the 19th, is our annual Party in the Park event. And this is where we release 500 butterflies. So it's free for families to come and attend. There's all kinds of nature education for kids and hands-on activities and a lot of fun. The only thing you would buy is if you want some dinner, there'll be food trucks on hand. And other than that, come and do something free and enjoyable and learning-oriented with your family.
What a sight to see those butterflies, I'm sure, take flight.
If you've wanted to come visit us at the garden and you just never quite get around to it, here's a great reason.
All right, Cynthia, good luck with that event. Thank you so much for the ideas.